بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد. So we had two choices. We have two choices. Sometimes we want to prove our faith to others. Sometimes we're not after proving our faith to others, our madhab to others. We just want to show that those who will have a different ideology and a different school of thought, we want to show that the foundations of such a school of thought aren't as solid as they say. And as a result, they find fault in our school of thought. There's two different approaches. We're taking the second approach these nights and trying to show that if it is said that the Shia school of thought has weak foundations, shaky foundations, we want to show that, well, according to the other school, we also have major issues and major questions, major discrepancies that will not allow one who is not biased, one who does not have a background, one who has not had ideologies indoctrinated in him. A person like this, when he sees this side of the story, he'll say, this is as shaky as that side of the story. This was the goal we were pursuing. And I've been saying this again and again, but apparently I still, for some, based on the questions and judging from the questions I get, I still haven't been able to get this across. That we are not after proving our faith through other sources, the sources of our Sunni brothers and sisters. That's not the goal of these talks. The goal of these talks is to just show that what we have on the other side, in their school, is as shaky as ours, according to them, of course. This is what we've been pursuing these nights. I hope this is clear. So, we were talking about Recited al-Khamis, and it's getting a little long, I know, and I want to explain why it's taking this long, because as you shall see, this is the only incident that everyone agrees on happened, and the words that I related were actually said. From here on, after this incident, brothers and sisters, you will see that we don't have an incident that everyone can agree on the details. That's why we have to make sure this one is taken care of. The rest that we go to, we'll see that we won't put too much time on them. We'll go through them, we'll say there's a version here of the story, there's another version here. This is the only one that everyone unanimously agrees on the details. So we reach this point where we're almost done with Recited al-Khamis and all the discrepancies that were pointed out last night. There's one more question that remains. And this is a serious question. You can maybe say this is the most serious question that we face regarding this incident. And that is, they tell you that if this paper and pen that the Prophet asked for, this dawat and katif that the Prophet asked for, if it was something that was very important, to the extent that the Prophet is saying that you will not be misguided afterwards, if you just let me write what I want to write, if it was this important, then why did not the Prophet write it later? If you remember last night, I said that our Sunni brothers and sisters, they will tell you, those of you who are in your Muslim student associations in university, they will tell you that the Prophet wanted to write about the first Khalifa, and he wanted to appoint him as his successor. That's what they'll tell you. And if he was going to appoint someone else, and it was this important, and you're saying it wasn't the person that the people agreed on later, then he had 4 or 5 days after this incident to still write this letter that he wanted to write. This is important. If the Prophet wants to write something that people will not be misguided afterwards because of it, and then they make him upset because they start arguing in his presence, and he says, "Qumu anni, get out of here. Leave me because you have broken the sanctity of the Prophet that's with you." Well, O Prophet of Allah, and some Shias even have this question. O Prophet of Allah, We wish that you had, although you took offense and you got upset for them disrespecting you in your presence, we wish that you could have put this aside, this grief of yours, and at least written the letter later. Yeah? If it's that important. So this is used to show that, listen, your argument is shaky, or else the Prophet would have written it later. It shows that this letter either was not that important, or if it was important, it was something that the Prophet had said before, and we talked about this last night. What was it? Ya Allah wal-Mu'minun illa Allah. So that is the question. That is the challenge that's posed. What can we say in response to this? It's very important. It's a very important question. In response, we look at the accounts and what the accounts say that happened after this. What did the Prophet say? What happens is they're still arguing. Some say, bring it, let the Prophet write. Others are saying, no, we don't need it. The Prophet is in pain. Why are you going to put him under the burden of writing something when he's in such pain? When this is happening, he says, Qumu anni. They say, oh Prophet, at least write it. The Prophet says 3 words. Awa ba'da hada. After this, do you want me to write something after this? Now it's interesting here. I thought it was just the Shia scholars who say this. But I even saw Ibn Taymiyyah says this. Wow. What does he say, or what do we say? And he happens to have said too, although he goes against it later in his writing. But anyway, when the Prophet says, Awa ba'da hada, he's not saying, leave, I'm offended, and because I'm offended, I will never write this anymore. Awa ba'da hada, after what happened, you want me to still write? After some of you said, Ahajar, is he speaking nonsense? Is he thinking straight or not? Maybe he doesn't know what he's talking about. The Prophet knows that even if he writes this, later on, people will say that he didn't know what he's talking about. He was being delirious. There was, yes, we feel sorry, we're upset that the Prophet was in such pain that look what he was writing. Although the Quran had said, Al-Yawm akmaltu lakum dinakum, your deen is complete, he said that bring something so I write something for you so you will never be misguided. Yes, unfortunately in those last days he wasn't feeling well. Now, we'll have cases where in this severe sickness and illness, the Prophet is saying something, they will take what he says there. And the illness doesn't matter. But in this case, apparently, it does. I want to, if brothers and sisters, recite salawat and move forward, inshallah. Salawat ala Muhammad wa
Right to the front, brothers. Right to the front, please.
Right to the front, brothers.
And another salawat. Okay. So there's no good in writing a letter anymore. In writing something like this anymore. But question again comes up. But fine, some people are going to say that. Shouldn't the Prophet still write it? Yeah? Shouldn't he still write the letter though? Because the people who are after the truth, what will they do? They'll accept it at least. There will be some people out there, as Shaykh Mutahari says, that will still are after the truth. And they will take this letter and they won't say what some of them said, that the Prophet doesn't know what he's talking about, or didn't know what he's talking about, because it's not his fault, but rather because he was under so much pain. Yeah? What do we say about this now? The answer to that is, brothers and sisters, there are some things that the sanctity of them is no way ever compromised. Allah will not allow it to be compromised, ever. Because the repercussions of such a thing will be worse. What do I mean? Imam Hussein alayhi salam, if he had stayed in Mecca, could he have gathered more followers and more supporters or not? Yes, he could have. Okay. But why did he not stay in Mecca? And he left Mecca. And he told Abdullah bin Zubayr, don't be that person who, because of him, the sanctity of Kaaba and the haram of Allah is broken. Why? Couldn't have Imam Hussein stayed? Yeah, of course he could have. But because there was a chance they'll assassinate him, he leaves, because there are some pillars that Allah does not want their sanctity to be compromised ever, because the deen stands on these pillars. One of them is the Kaaba and the haram of Allah. And the Imam has come to push everyone towards the Kaaba. He's not going to sacrifice the Kaaba for himself. Unlike what Abdullah bin Zubayr did, and eventually they came and catapulted the Kaaba, and the Kaaba went in flames and so on. That's one. Another one. Sometimes people ask, if wilayah and imamah and Imam Ali is so important, why wasn't he mentioned once in the Quran at least? Once, please, by name, explicitly. Why not? The same thing holds here. There are some things that the sanctity of it cannot be broken. If there's a chance that people will touch the Quran, mess with the Quran, and then people in the future come and say, yeah, the Quran was touched and altered and Allah didn't protect the Quran, this will have worse implications. The Quran will lose value and credibility. And it won't be authoritative anymore the way it used to be. Why? Because some people found the excuse to alter, to try to take the verses out. Now no one knows. Maybe there were other verses too that might have been taken out. That's why our maraja are so firm when it comes to here. Our muhaqqiqeen and ulama are so firm when it comes to the Quran. They say nothing has been touched. Don't you dare ever. This is something that Allah has ghira about. He's not going to do something to compromise the untouchability of the Quran. When He wants to protect the Quran, it's not like He says, I protect the Quran, anyone who tries to touch and alter it, I will send down lightning and destroy them. That's not how Allah does things, or else He would take us all straight to heaven if He was going to interfere directly with everything we want to do. There's no testing if Allah interferes like this. Oh, when Allah says, I'm going to protect, that means I'm going to do something so no one can touch it. I won't corner the cat. I've explained this in many other instances. I won't talk about it. Now let's come to the Prophet, brothers and sisters. Someone will say, well, why didn't the Prophet write it anyway? And then some will come and say, oh, the Prophet, he wasn't feeling that good. But others will say, no, we take what he said and he was feeling good. You know what happens, brothers and sisters, if such a thing happens? Do you know what happens? That will give some people the audacity to say that there are cases, even if it's one, there are cases where the Prophet doesn't know what he's talking about. Verses of the Quran that talk about the Prophet, everything he says is wahi, everything he does is because of the command of Allah. All of this will be compromised. Then later on in the future, other things also. Right now we see, okay, he was feeling very ill. What about Al-Ghadir, for example? Well, in Al-Ghadir, I don't know, something else. And then what about like when he was smiling and joking about something? Even there he doesn't know what he's talking about. Astaghfirullah, na'udhu billah, and so on and so forth. When you open the door to such a problem, there is no closing of the door anymore. People, when they look at things, sometimes they look at them, they get emotional. And we have this problem till today. But the ulama, they look from above, let alone the prophets and the imams. After what you said, you think I'm going to give you an excuse so that everywhere you feel like you disagree with me, you can use an excuse to say something about me not knowing what I said? Or I'm not even going to let that door be opened to begin with. This is that last challenge regarding the letter that was to be written on that Thursday. Now we have another thing to talk about here, and that is a question that we have. That if someone is feeling ill, very ill, and is in pain, if that is the cause for us to not have him write what he wants to write, or to compromise the credibility of what he writes, let's go to the first Khalifa's deathbed now. What happened there? Let's see if people said that he was in pain or not. What happened with the first Khalifa when he's passing away? It's a famous story, most of you have probably heard of it. It says, دعا أبو بكر عثمان فقال له اكتب بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. So Abu Bakr calls Uthman. It's interesting that when a Khalifa wants to be determined, the one that's to come later is the one who determines. For example, when Abu Bakr is to be chosen, the second Khalifa is the one who is involved in him being chosen. Umar ibn al-Khattab. Here now, Umar ibn al-Khattab wants to be chosen. Who's the one who's involved in this? Uthman is involved in this, who becomes the third Khalifa. This data that we talk about, these little bits and pieces that I give you, if you give this to an academic, a secular scholar, when they put these little clues and bits together, they'll say that, a normal person, usually, a normal person will have an agenda when they're doing this. But as I said the first night, because of the concept of adalat al-sahaba, the righteousness of the companions of the Prophet, what is proven is that these were not normal individuals. So whatever they do, we can't question it. These bits and pieces of information, evidence, we put it together, it doesn't mean anything. Anyway, the hadith goes on. Uktub Bismillah ar-Rahim. Abu Bakr calls Uthman. He says, write Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Write this. Okay. هذا ما عهد أبو بكر ابن أبي قحافة إلى المسلمين. This is what Abu Bakr has to say to the Muslimin. أما بعد. Okay, I want to start and say what I want to say, and then they say Abu Bakr passes out. So he was very ill. He wasn't feeling well. No one says غلبه الوجع. No one says Ahajar. Did he know what he's talking about? Because at the end of the day, in that Raziyat al-Khamis, there was some who said this. Does he know what he's talking about? How come no one ever said this? Okay. فَكَتَبَ عُثْمَانَ. Uthman wrote something on behalf of Abu Bakr, who is right now passed out in front of him. أما بعد فإني قد استخلفت عليكم عمر بن الخطاب ولم آلكم خيرا منه. He says that, he's writing on Abu Bakr's behalf, he says that I have made Umar the Khalifa after me. So then Abu Bakr, when he wakes up, he says, what did you do, Uthman? Uthman says, this is what I wrote. Fill in the blanks. I fill in the blank like this. I put Umar's name. Abu Bakr said, very good. جزاك الله خيرا عن الإسلام وأهلي وأقرأها أبو بكر رضي الله عنه, whatever the hadith says. So here we find the same exact scenario, but no one later asks, Ahajara, did he know what he's saying or not? So shakiness, brothers and sisters, that's all we're after. Questions, discrepancies, and so on. Recited salawat. Let's move on. Let's move on to the army of Usama. That was one thing that led to Fatimiyya. Yes, Yawm al-Khamis, if it had been carried out right, Fatima Al-Zahra wouldn't have become shaheed later. That was one. And all the questions and answers regarding it. The Jaysh of Usama, the army of Usama, we have some things to talk about here before we move on to the next darkness of these days. Darkness number 2, Jaysh Usama. Now regarding this, you shall see how there's a difference of opinion here. About what took place, what didn't take place, who was there, who was not there. None of the stuff that we had in the beginning in Raziyat al-Khamis you will have here. Raziyat al-Khamis, set in stone. Everyone agrees on the details. Here we'll have difference of opinion regarding the details. Let's go and let's see what's going on. What is going on? What is this army of Usama bin Zaid all about? In the battle of Mu'tah, the Prophet sends an army to fight the Romans, the Byzantines. And Ja'far ibn Abi Talib becomes shaheed in this battle. Zaid bin Haritha becomes shaheed in this battle. The third one I forgot, the third commander that the Prophet had set, he becomes shaheed also. That's when the Muslimeen, and through the help of Khalid bin Walid, they retreat. And let me just say this on the side, that he helps them flee from the battlefield and come back to Medina, and that's where they give him the title of Sayfullah, the sword of Allah, because they fled. He's given the title of Saifullah. There's a lot of questions here as well, but we don't want to talk about that. Anyway, the army of Usama comes back. The army of Ja'far ibn Abi Talib and Zaid bin Haritha comes back. Who is Zaid bin Haritha, by the way? Who is he? He's the only companion of the Prophet whose name has been mentioned in the Quran regarding his wife and how Zaid divorced his wife and the Prophet married Zayd's ex-wife, to show that that whole story of adoption in Islam doesn't hold any legal value. In other words, if you adopt somebody, they're not your son Islamically. You can help, it's encouraged, it's mustahab to help the orphans and all of that, but at the same time, there is no family bond Islamically. Some people think that if they adopt someone, if they adopt a child, that if that kid's a boy, that boy when he grows up, he becomes mahram to their wife. That's not the case. Anyway, long story. This was something that was in the past, and Allah in the Quran explicitly names Zayd's name. The Prophet married his adopted son's wife, to show that there is no family bond here. Zayd was adopted by the Prophet, but just because that happened doesn't mean Zayd is his real son, so his wife is his daughter-in-law. No. Okay? This is also something that is discussed. Anyway, this is Zayd bin Haritha, one of the companions of Rasulullah. He also becomes shaykh. He has a son by the name of Usama, who is in his teens, they say. Not even 20 years old yet, some say. Close to 20, 18 maybe. What happens is, this army comes back. The Prophet falls ill. It's towards the end of the Prophet's life. The Prophet puts together another army under the command of this Usama, who's a teenager, under his command. And the reports say the Prophet himself went with, how he's feeling ill, but the Prophet himself, aqad al-liwa. The Prophet tied the flag for this army, tied it. Let me just explain something here before we go on. This whole aqad al-liwa, the Prophet tied the banner or the flag of the army. What does that mean? He tied it. Our ulama have explained. They say that back in those days, when they wanted to go out and fight, they would have a flag, a standard. Now, if they knew where the army is headed, if it has been disclosed to the soldiers that where they're going, this flag was open and waving in the wind. But sometimes they would tie the flag. Okay? Our ulama say this would happen when they would hide and not disclose to the army where they're headed for strategic reasons regarding warfare, related to warfare and war strategy. They would tie the flag. This flag would be in the hand of the standard bearer of the army. The army would go. When they would reach that point where the battle is to actually take place, that's when they would untie the liwa and let it wave. This is what aqad al-liwa means. The Prophet here did not disclose, and they didn't know. Only the commanders might have known, and some of the close companions maybe, that they are going back to fight the Romans again. The Prophet said, I want you to go back, Usama, and I want you to avenge the death of your father, and I want you to do this, 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 and this. The Prophet is very ill, but he ties the flag himself and tells the army to go. Now, who is in this army? We have normal people, and then we have great companions as well. Why do I say this? Great companions as well. Because after a little bit, the Prophet hears that some people are objecting to the fact that Usama is their commander. He's young. What are you talking about? We're old companions of yours. What happened that you bring a teenager over us? How do we know that it was great companions who objected to this? Because if it was your normal foot soldier that's complaining, it won't cause that much of trouble for the army to not mobilize and go out of the city. If out of all the army, you have some people talking, we don't want to go, what is this, why did they put such a commander over us, he's young? If it's just your normal foot soldiers, it's not going to cause a problem. It'll cause a problem when some of those bigger faces are the ones who are objecting. Do you have hadith for this? No, we don't have hadith for this. We're using our common sense though. We have to think a little bit. We can't be so literal and say only whatever hadith says, whatever hadith says. And we find this, of course, in other schools of thought more, but we're seeing it today more and more. And I have to go on a tangent here. We're seeing this in the Shia school too, unfortunately. There's a hadith on this, so this alim doesn't know what he's talking about. Is he an alim, meaning a person who has really studied hard for half his life or not? Yes, he is. Then what do you mean he doesn't know what he's talking about? We have hadith. How dare you go against the ma'asumeen? We have a hadith in the hadith book that went through 5 or 6 narrators before it was recorded. No one doubts that you cannot stand in the face of an imam and ma'soom. No one doubts that. But not accepting a certain hadith because you are not convinced, although you spent half your life studying, you're not convinced that this actually came out of the mouth of the ma'soom is different than standing in the face of the ma'soom. But now as we go on, and as communication and internet and technology and all that develops more and more, what do we find? People are gaining more access to hadiths. That's okay. And not just hadiths, that's translation of hadith. Translations of hadith. And then this person is doing his own ijtihad. You know, some people say, why are you guys so exclusive? Well, let people, learn about Islam. That's not a problem, but it's not learning about Islam. If we go the wrong way, what's the difference between me and Abu Hanifa? What's the difference? The akhirah of the people is not something to play with. I feel that you hear this rhetoric, I feel that this hadith, this is what it's saying. Afwan, who are you? There are some who've studied for so long, they're still afraid to talk when it comes to hadith. It's hard, it's very hard. But then now everyone has the the credentials to talk about these things. Just because we have hadith here, he doesn't know what he's talking about. But he's Ayatollah so-and-so, did you know that? 80 years of studying, man. 50 years of studying. Don't you think he also saw the hadith? They make it sound like a marja is standing in the face of the ma'asumeen. We seek refuge in Allah from this. And then they say, why doesn't the imam come back? Well, the imam, he sees that these people haven't understood who's representing him. He's not going to come back when we don't even understand his representatives. Like Muslim al-Aqid. Imam Hussein is going to come if they accept Muslim. Anyway, we want to use this a little bit more, but at the same time, this also has its boundaries. This also has the red lines. All of this has to be studied. Alright, so we don't have a hadith that, there was great companions that said, we don't accept this individual. But when you think about it, a normal person on the street is going to object to this, who's a nobody himself. A nobody is going to object to a nobody. Is that how it works? Or no, people who have a high rank, they'll get upset. And we have the same story in the Quran about one of the prophets of Allah, that they wanted to go and fight Jalut, and the Prophet says, Talut is your king, he's your commander. He was young. The people objected, the rich ones, the noble ones. Oh, how come he's our king? Okay. So having said that, another question comes up. And this is our question. That if this army is being sent, doesn't the Prophet know that he's passing away? Doesn't he know? Yes, of course he knows. If the Prophet knows that he's passing away, then why is he sending companions out of the city? Doesn't he want the companions to be with him in his final moments? Does he not want that? Doesn't he have anything important to say? Or why is it that he's trying to get rid of everybody? Why does he send Abu Sufyan out of the city? Abu Sufyan, he had become Muslim, of course by force. He had no choice. Either you leave Mecca and you become a nobody, or you stay in Mecca, you take Islam on the outside, but on the inside you don't have it in you. Abu Sufyan was sent out by the Prophet. Go collect zakat from here, here, and here. And he went out. And by the time he came back, he saw the Prophet has already passed away. The Prophet sent him out, sent others out too. What is the Prophet after? Doesn't he not know that he's passing away? He knows he's passing away. Then that means that he still doesn't want these people to be around him? Why? Now we come to the controversial part. And that is that we see some say that when the Prophet saw people not going, although he had commanded them to go, and they eventually went, it is said that on the same Khamis, he sent them out. They were sent out. Apparently this happened before the time where he said, bring me pen and paper. Okay. Now here, when he says, when he says to go, we also hear hadith by some that goes like this: لَعَنَ اللَّهَ الْمُتَخَلِّفِينَ عَنْ جَيْشِ Usama. The Prophet said, go, نَفِّذُوا أَنْفِذُوا جَيْشِ Usama, أَنْفِذُوا بَعْث Usama, go. Now here, when the story is being told, you hear this line sometimes: لَعَنَ اللَّهُ الْمُتَخَلِّفِينَ عَنْ جَيْشِ Usama. Okay. That the Prophet cursed those who didn't go. Am I against this? Do I believe that the Prophet didn't say this? No, this is my disclaimer right now. I'm not saying that I don't believe in this and the Prophet saying this. I don't believe that he didn't say it. That means I think that he must have said it. Okay? Let's get this disclaimer out. But can this be used, brothers and sisters? You don't want to go and when they're asking you a question, for example, and then you use this line. Is this line accepted widely or not? Can I use this to show the shakiness of the foundations of the other school or not? Brothers and sisters, I hate to break it to all of us, but let's go and see where this line has originated from. It's in non-Shia sources, yes, but it's not in the main sources. It's not. For example, they will tell you Shahristani has mentioned this. Well, Shahristani we know that he's a Sunni, yes. But when he relates this, it's a mursal story, they say. There is no chain of narrators. So right there, they'll tell you, we're sorry, we can't do this. We can't use this. So those people who stayed back, if they stayed back, the Prophet didn't curse them. What are you trying to prove? Yes, your point might have been proven if the Prophet had actually cursed those who didn't go. But it's not proven to us that the Prophet cursed. Who else has narrated it? Jawahiri. They say we don't even know who Jawahiri is. Some of them will say that. Who else has narrated it? Ibn Abil Hadid. Ibn Abil Hadid. We all know Ibn Abil Hadid, right? The famous commentator of Nahj al-Balagha. Now here some people say he is Sunni. Yeah, he's not Shia. But the mainstream Sunni school doesn't see him as Sunni either. They say he's Mu'tazili. I understand that from a Shia perspective, he's considered Sunni. But lots of the mainstream, they don't see him as Sunni even. Ibn Abil Hadid. Mu'tazilites, I've asked this to make sure. Mu'tazilites, they don't represent mainstream Sunnism. So these are three of the ones. I tried to find others, I couldn't. I looked, for example, Allama said Murtada al-Askari. Those of you who know him. He writes in these historical matters, he's written. You can't find anything else. These are the things that they've cited. These are the answers they've given. So I can't use this line. That's one. They will tell you, first of all, who said he cursed? Second of all, let's just say that he did curse the ones who stayed behind, for argument's sake. Yeah? It sounds like I'm defending them, right? I'm not defending. We want to be effective. We want to be effective in our arguments, one. And two, when it comes to dialogue, we want to understand how they think. If we want to get along with each other, if we want to coexist. If the time comes that we have to unite against a greater enemy, that we have to understand each other. If it's that clear that the Prophet cursed them, but we still say, oh, he's the first or second Khalifa, then I'll be like, how I can talk to a person who believes in this, who knows that the Prophet cursed, but they still see him as the highest. No, that's not what they say. And this is where it hurts. Where you see some individuals, their argument when it comes to, in matters that we have to unite with our Sunni brothers and sisters, you will see this. How can I unite with a person who reveres the killer of my mother Fatima? Which is true, this is right, we believe in this. You are right by saying that. But did you know that lots of these individuals don't even know who was behind all of that? If they knew in the truth, Muawiyah had let the truth reach those it was supposed to reach, they would have been angrier than you and I probably. So these things that we're talking about is for this purpose, so we understand the other side better, so we can get along better. Anyway, they will tell you that let's just say the Prophet did curse those who stayed back. But we believe that the Prophet made an exception for a few individuals, such as the first Khalifa. What are you going to do about that? The Prophet made an exception. Here, slowly, now these are the parts where you'll understand what I was saying the first night. When you do the research on these things, sometimes you just want to hurt yourself. You just want to hit yourself against the wall. Because everything that is there, that is in the books, has somehow, they've tied your hands. This is why I was saying that recited al-Khamis is so important. That's something we can work with. Because everyone agrees on the details. Here, no one agrees on these details. And I'm not defending them. So what do we say? Brothers and sisters, I thought and look, the best thing we can say is this. That the Prophet made an exception. We have other reasons that the Prophet didn't make an exception. At least for the first Khalifa, he didn't. And then there's a list of 10, 15 books, and there might be more even, where you will find, for example, in Tabaqat al-Ibn Sa'd, which is a very, very reliable book, but it doesn't reach the level of Bukhari and Muslim, of course it doesn't. In these books, one after another, Ibn Jawzi has said this someplace. I don't know. Al-Kamil fil Tarikh, Ibn Athir has said this. All of them have said this though. That, let me read the Arabic for you. فَلَمْ يَبْقَ أَحَدٌ. When the Prophet sent the army out, no one was left behind. مِنْ وُجُوهِ الْمُهَاجِرِينَ وَالْأَنصَارِ. Of the great figures of the Muhajirin and the Ansar. No one was left behind. إِلَّا انْتُدِبَ فِي تِلْكَ الْغَزْوَةِ. No one was left except that the Prophet made it wajib on them to go. فيهم أبو بكر وعمر بن الخطاب أبو عبيدة الجراح. These three were in Saqifa. Sa'd bin Abi Waqqas, Zaid bin Zaid, and a few other ones. Now, not one book, not two books, not three books, not four books, not five books, not six books. I saw the list. I had 7 books, 8 books, 9 books. They're all mentioning that the Muhajirin and Ansar, the greats of them, they were all there, and then it names them. Namely, this, and this. Okay, so wait a minute. If they left on that Thursday, then who was there later on when they say the Prophet couldn't lead the prayer, so he sent the first Khalifa to lead instead of him? And this is the part where do we have a discrepancy. The Prophet is passing away. The Yawm al-Ithnain, that's Monday, the day that the Prophet passed away. We'll talk about this tomorrow night more, inshallah. The Prophet sends, they say, the first Khalifa to take his place. Okay, wait a minute. So wait, the 10, 15 books are telling us that they were sent out, and the army of Usama that was sent out on Thursday didn't come back until the Prophet had passed away. They went to the outskirts of Medina, in a place called Jurf, or some say Jaraf, but I think Jurf is right. Jurf, and they're staying there. And then a letter comes from the mother of Usama bin Zaid that the Prophet has passed away, come back. So wait a minute, the Prophet passed away, then they came back. So wait a minute, who's leading the prayers if he's not there, but he's there, but he's not there? But he's there. How does it work? That's one. Another thing, why is it that after the Prophet passes away, and the first Khalifa of course comes to power, when he sends Jaysh Usama, and Usama says, I will not get off of my horse until I go and finish the job the Prophet put me in charge of. Now here some people say the first Khalifa was the one who sent them again. They were saying, we're still under the command of Rasulullah. We're going to take care of what Rasulullah had said. But anyway, they took credit for this too. Usama, when he wants to go, the first Khalifa says, please leave behind my brother Umar ibn al-Khattab. Leave him behind so he stays with me. That, once again, we have to use our common sense a little bit here. If he's asking for him to stay, that means that before he was probably supposed to go. Little bits and pieces. If we had more things to work with, we would. But we said the first night, we said we're going to go as much as we can. We're going to suffocate ourselves and try to keep it firsthand as much as we can. If we're going to keep it firsthand, this is what we can say regarding this issue. And these little bits and pieces. The fact is, the truth of the matter is, that the discrepancies here, was he here? Was he there? Was he leading prayers instead of the Prophet? Or was he out of Medina and Jurf? Where was he? This itself shows shakiness, mission accomplished, shakiness. But no, let me tell you something. They will tell you that the ahadith for the first Khalifa leading prayers instead of the Prophet are so many that these are proof that Abu Bakr wasn't one of those who is supposed to go with the army of Usama. Not the other way around. That him being in the army is proof that he wasn't leading the prayers when the Prophet was ill. You see? Back and forth. What we can say though is we're not after proving that he wasn't there or was there. We're after just showing that there's a major discrepancy here. What are you going to do about 10, 15 other books? And those are the ones that I've seen, brothers and sisters, that they've listed. There's more. And the ones that I've seen, you see the text, you read off of the book. What are you going to do about all of those? Let's move on now and finish it off with this. Finish off with this last point. That, okay, let's just say that the Prophet cursed. Or let's say it like this. Let's just say the Prophet said, I want you to go. Nafidu, anfidu. Go with this army, 1. 2, he did not make an exception for anybody. Let's just say. Here, those of you who are like me will hit yourselves against the wall. Because I didn't see this in the books, but I YouTubed it and I saw this video, and it just makes you so upset. They asked one of these sheikhs. Now the guy who's asking, he's scary too, and then the sheikh also. So there you can tell these guys are proper. He asks the sheikh, what happened in Jaysh Usama? Did not the Prophet curse the ones who didn't go? He says, "Lam yathbut indana." It hasn't been established for us. And he's right, it hasn't. That the Prophet cursed. And then he goes on to say this. This is the part, now, some of you are going to hold yourselves. He says, but this was an amr command. This was a command by the Prophet, yeah. But it was amrun siyasi. It was a political command. What the heck does that mean? He explains. He says, you see, the awamir of the Prophet regarding the deen are the ones that are wajib to follow. But if it's a political amr or command, you are allowed to do ijtihad regarding that command. Oh my God. Now, someone might say, well, that doesn't make sense. That's not fair. Who cares if it's not fair? Because we have instances where the Prophet has said this or done this. For example, and of course the Shia school believes that these are hadith ascribed to the Prophet to bring down his image, to break his infallibility. They'll give you a hadith, there's different hadith, I'll give you one. The Prophet, he's from Mecca, isn't he? In Mecca, what do they do for a living? They don't, there's no agriculture there. Yeah, it's all stone. It's either stone or the stone heart of the Wahhabis, Takfir is running it today. It's all, you can't do agriculture in Mecca. The people there, they didn't know agriculture. They say the Prophet came to Medina, he was passing by some people, and they were doing talqih, pollination, say, right? If that's the word. They were pollinating the palm trees for their dates to become ripe and to come out. The Prophet says, oh, what are you doing? They say, I hope that's the right word, pollinating. Is that the right word for talqih? Inshallah it is. Excuse me? Immunization. We'll look this up later. So they're doing something so that these things can bear fruit. The Prophet says, I think it's better if you don't do that. They say, okay, is the Prophet is speaking about this? Of course we're going to listen to him. Of course, apparently they hadn't learned this lesson, that when the Prophet speaks about anything other than the religion, he's your normal human being. So what happens here? What happens is, after the trees come out and all that kind of stuff, the fruits are bad. And the Prophet says, what's going on? They tell him, you told us not to do talqiyah, this is what we got. And then the Prophet says, أَنْتُمْ أَعْلَمُ بِدُنْيَاكُمْ. You guys know better what to do with your dunya. Don't worry, like, if I said something, don't take it seriously. Whoa. So, this type of command is an agricultural command. That command is a political command. Just like every other person. So now someone here might say, no, don't get too upset. I'll give you something that you believe in yourself. What is it? That you, Shia, believe in. That in one of the battles, I couldn't find this, I didn't have time to look it up, but I remember, in one of the battles, the Prophet, he has a strategy. And one of his companions comes to him, he says, this strategy and plan that you have, is it something from above, is it a divine plan? Or is it from you, O Prophet of Allah? And the Prophet says, no, it's from me. He says, can I give a suggestion? The Prophet says, go ahead, give a suggestion. He gives a suggestion, and from what I remember, the Prophet takes that suggestion. Or Salman al-Farsi, right? In that story also, Salman gives a suggestion, the Prophet takes it. So you see, O people, O Shia, who are upset with this concept, we have cases that you yourselves accept, that the Prophet, he has an idea, but he doesn't go by it, and he goes by what others say. Answer is the least that we'll say here, and we don't need to say more than that. The least to say here is this, that yes, here, the Prophet says it himself, that this is something from myself, don't worry about it, tell me, I'm supposed to speak with you and consult you. The Quran even says, consult them, أَمْرُهُمْ شُورَى بَيْنَهُمْ, fine. In these cases where the Prophet specifies that, yes, give me some information, give information. But in cases that he says, this is the command of Allah, but not only is this command of Allah, he comes out from the ill, he's ill, he has tied his head with a cloth, and he suffers while coming out, and he says, Anfidu, go. This is nothing like that, give me help, I need help here, or give me suggestions, or there, does it sound like he wants suggestions? No, it's very different. Inshallah, Allah guides us to the truth, and gives us tawfiq to learn more and more, inshallah. We end with 3 salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Wow.